Hello, my name is Amanda. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about our feminine energy. It doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman because it's not about gender. As many of you guys already know, feminine energy is the part of us that's more emotional, more nurturing, more in a flow state, more intuitive. So we all have that part of us. Within that part of us, we have a polarity. There's two ends of the spectrum. So in this video, we're going to talk about those two ends and then why it's important to balance them and how we can do that. Okay, so on one end of the spectrum, we have the light feminine. The light feminine you can think of as that really sweet mother who is self-sacrificing, who is so tender, who can't say no very easily, who is a people pleaser, who doesn't take care of her own needs, who doesn't have an ability to say no or share her point of view. She often finds herself in mid or later life with chronic health problems because she's leaked all her power away to other people. On the outside, it might look really benevolent, but often this is actually a trauma response of wanting people to like her, wanting people to need her, wanting people to accept her. Maybe she wants to find value in herself by the things that she's doing for other people, and giving her power away to them and her energy away to them, even if maybe they could take care of themselves, it makes her feel valuable because there's some personal value missing in her. The dark feminine is, think Maleficent from Sleeping Beauty, Lilith, the sorceress in the swamp. Okay, she has no problem being harsh. She has no problem saying no. In fact, she usually says no. She has no problem being manipulative. She has no problem being overly stubborn all of the time. She's the devouring mother who puts herself before her children. And this also comes from a trauma response. At some point, the dark feminine part of us, the dark feminine archetype, was vulnerable, was childlike, and that was somehow taken advantage of. She was hurt and traumatized, and her response was to put up walls and to become harsh with everybody. And so that is the unbalanced end of the dark feminine. It leads to the opposite of the light feminine. So the light feminine is usually around a lot of people because they're fixing and helping and being a hero. And the dark feminine is around nobody because of the walls that have been created. All of us fall towards one side more than the other. All of us can find ourselves on this polarity. And so half of it is knowing which end of the polarity we lean towards. And then if we know where to go next. So the gifts of the light feminine are pretty obvious. All of this compassion, all of this nurturing, all of this tenderness, these are the gifts. The dark feminine's gifts include discernment. She can look at a person or a situation and see the good, the bad, and the ugly. She can see the godlike characteristics, the bumbling human characteristics, and the demonic characteristics. Her eyes are like fire, and she can look right through you with a penetrating gaze, a person, a situation, and she can size it up really well. Maybe too well, and usually ends up making walls based on what she sees. She sees the threat in almost everything. Yet, she has really good discernment. She sees what she sees and she follows through, and she doesn't care what anybody else says about that. She sticks with her convictions, even if she's standing alone. She stands alone without a problem. So this is a gift from the dark feminine. If we lean more towards the light feminine, we might have a difficult time standing alone. We might have a difficult time creating space from things that are parasitic and suck the life out of us. We might have a hard time sharing our point of view and sticking with it. If we're with the dark feminine, with the way that we lean, we have a difficult time being vulnerable and choosing who to be vulnerable with and when. We're just always in that standoffish place. What do we do? Once it's like, okay, I've got a light bulb moment and I really see where I'm at right now, and this can actually change many times in our life before we have our light bulb moments. What do you need to pull from the opposite end of the spectrum within this feminine polarity that's going to help you integrate both sides, the best of both sides, and then pop up and transcend this duality? Because this is one example of a duality in our universe. And so right now we're finding ways, if we're on our self-awareness path, our healing path, we're finding ways to transcend duality by bringing in both sides and making the best of the gifts of both sides. That's kind of what we're doing. And when we can do that, we are going to be beyond the spectrum, and we're going to find that people, that opportunities, that incredible books with words that pop off the page, creative ideas, they find their way to us much more easily. Because the unhealed light feminine and the unhealed dark feminine are actually quite disconnected from the universal mind. They're disconnected from all these creative people and ideas and opportunities because they're still kind of circling in these patterns that are not effective. So if you're somebody who leans towards the light feminine and you're a bit of a martyr and you know it, if your trauma response is to kind of like flatter and fawn people, maybe to freeze, don't be afraid to pull your discernment from the dark feminine aspect of you. We're not becoming maleficent here. We're not becoming harsh. What we're doing is we're bringing the gems that she has into our life because we haven't picked them up and used them before. Guaranteed you've got more discernment than you realize. And when you start to use it, and not just use your discernment and admit to what you see around you, but actually follow through and conserve your energy and take care of yourself and say no when it's time to say no in order to kind of keep that energy within you, then you're integrating your dark feminine. If you have a ton of walls and you have no problem standing alone and you have no problem saying no, and you might have a hard time connecting with other people and being vulnerable. How can you bring the light feminine towards you, the gifts of the light feminine, without losing yourself? You can take that fiery discernment that is so natural to you, this gift of God, and you can look at the people and the situations in your life, and you can decide where is the safest places out of all my options to bring a little bit more of my softness, to bring a little bit more of my understanding and my vulnerability. Where can I pay an authentic compliment today to someone where I would have reserved that in the past? Where can I listen more and look people in the eye? It's not for everybody. We're not bringing these light-bearing gifts to everyone. We're using that dark feminine discernment to know where we can start to soften. Where is the safest place for us to start softening a little more? Getting comfortable with the softness in those areas and with those people, and taking it really slow. And then the dark feminine parts of us that are so icy, those parts start to melt. But we don't lose ourselves. We don't lose ourselves. We just get a little bit more comfortable with a little bit more softness. And in this way, we're starting to bring together both sides. Because if you're only one side, you really aren't going to go anywhere. I have a friend of a friend who is in her 60s who really veers toward the light feminine. She's helped people her entire life at the expense of her own needs. And later in life, she ended up with really bad chronic stomach problems, her solar plexus area of her body, which is our power center. When we've given our power away for that long, our energetic body becomes very depleted, especially in the power center. It can be really hard to regain our physical health once we get chronic health problems of a certain type, especially in our later years. So these are things that can happen to us if we stay too stuck in one polarity or another. We can actually get physically sick. These imbalances really take a toll on our energetic body. We can kind of get away with it in our 20s and 30s, but beyond that, they start to really make a mess of our energetic body and eventually our physical body. So there are so many reasons why we want to get balanced, but especially because we want to become more connected to our higher power. We want to integrate. So know where you are on the spectrum, and then get curious about the gifts on the other side of the spectrum that you haven't utilized so that you can become more complete with your feminine energy and therefore get more connected to all the good things, because those good things are waiting for you. So if you like this video, please like or comment, and journey well.